And you think about that win against Texas in 2021, and I've got chills just thinking about it. That was a special program defining win at that point in the Pittman tenure. My arms, man, I got chill bumps just thinking about it. That win just exuded the what the era of the Pittman tenure early on was hard work, man. Grant Morgan, you had Joe Boucher just Superman flying, tackling Hudson, whatever the Texas quarterback's name was.
Card.
Yeah, Hudson Clark or Card, yeah, Hudson Card. I mean, he was Superman jumping from like 5 yards away to tackle the guy. And then on offense, you just had the rugged run game and you had smart decisions by KJ. That team was they weren't perfect by any means, but they rose to the occasion. They weren't the talented team. They were not the most talented team on the field that day. Texas has had the history of recruiting top 10 classes year after year after year, no matter who the coach was or has been. And they went out there and just meant business. That is what they need to do. They were led by the players, and the players were not going to take anything. They were going to they were focused on changing things, and that's my one question I have with this team. Do they have those guys that are going to fight?
I was thinking about that game actually this morning.
Hmm.
Um, I view things a little differently than a lot of Razorback fans, just because
Hmm.
all the talk of Texas was the people that are older. I'm in my mid 40s. I technically was around when Texas played Arkansas, but it's not part of my sports memory. My sports memory
Right.
basically starts with the SEC. I've got a vague memory of Quinn Grovey and Andre Ware kind of deal. So Texas isn't as big of a deal to me. And so when that game happened, I saw it as here's Texas, perennial doormat for a decade, just getting curb stomped by everybody. And after Arkansas literally made them quit on the field at halftime, I was a little disappointed to see the fans storm the field because in my
Hmm.
mind, I'm like, you just beat a really terrible Texas team that hasn't done anything in a decade. But as I was thinking about it today, because I was trying to think of it with a different perspective, those fans that stormed the field that day had gone through the Chad Morris era, all the craziness of dealing with the first year that Sam Pittman had to deal with. That was the first, if I remember this correctly, and I may be wrong, that was the first Power Five win that those fans were experiencing over someone who wasn't a Mississippi school. At a time when, a Mississippi
Yeah.
school was, it's different now because of Ole Miss, but at the time it was like, okay, Mississippi school, yay. So I still wouldn't storm the field. I don't think Texas was worth it then. But I understand the emotion of finally getting that off your chest. Hey, we're finally beating someone who's not, from the state of Mississippi, and it's a legitimate, even though they haven't been good for a decade, it's a legitimate Power Five team. And so that had to feel good. It had to feel good for Sam to bring that to the people
Yeah.
of Arkansas. And it almost feels like we're in the same spot again now.
Right. I don't think they rush the field anytime soon. But you think about it, and during that 2021 season, it was the first home win that Arkansas had had in almost 5 years in the SEC. Well, versus a Power Five team.
Mm.
Let's rephrase that. The last team that they had beat was Florida, and that was in 2016. That was the last SEC win that Arkansas had had. That was the last Power Five team that Arkansas beat inside Razorback Stadium. That's
Well,
just that's just an incredible. I don't know how you can even describe that feeling though, as a fan that day rushing the field because you finally can say, "I'm hanging it up, man. We're back." I think that's what they were thinking at that point.
trying to look back here. Where was the last? Because we're kind of in that boat now. I don't.
The
Was
last
Ole
time
Miss? Yeah,
Arkansas
Ole
beat a
Miss was
Power
the
Five
last
team was
time.
Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that Ole Miss game 2 years ago
Hmm.
was the last time they got a home win in Fayetteville against a Power Five team.
It's crazy, man. It's
Well,
it's a
well,
weird it's a weird deal. Like Arkansas goes in stretches now where under Petrino, under Nutt, I mean, it was never like that. And you've had back to back to back coaches here at Arkansas, whether it be with Bielema, Chad, or Sam, that there's been season long, almost 2 season long stretches of no home wins against Power Five opponents. And that's just almost unfathomable, but we've gotten used to it.
it felt like they played worse at home. It wasn't they were just
Yeah.
losing. It
No.
was when they got home, something just short-circuited with them.
And I don't know what it was. I mean, you think about the games, whether it was LSU on the road this year, they were down by double digits, and they came back and almost won that game with Luke
Mhm.
Hass. I mean, that was his come out performance of that season. Think about the Alabama game and almost ending that streak against Saban. And I know there's a couple of others you dueled with Ole Miss to an extent this past year, and those were all road games. And you're thinking, if these guys can play with that intensity on the road, what are you doing at home? And even bled over to basketball last season.
Mhm.
It was just it's crazy to think about that somewhat because what's going on? I mean, you think Bud Walton's like the craziest arena you can think of, and it peaked at the Duke game.
Yeah, either Duke or Purdue.
Yeah, it peaked at one of those points last year, and it never got back on track. Where you got to create that home field advantage again, or you're going to end up losing it, especially if you no show this season.
Arkansas doesn't even have, well, yeah, it'll be October 5th. Will be their first Power Five game in
Hmm.
Fayetteville. They got back to back. So 3 out of 4 games are in Fayetteville. So if we're or 4 out of 5 games, wow, that are SEC games. So I'm going to give you these games. You tell me which one you think they're most likely to win. It is not an easy slate. October
Okay.
5th, you got Tennessee.
Hmm.
Uh, October 19th, you got LSU. November 2nd, Ole Miss. November 16th, Texas.
Yeah.
And you travel to Starkville in the middle of all that.
Right.
So out of those, who could they possibly beat at home to end this losing streak?
There's one coach right now that is 0-2 versus Arkansas at Razorback Stadium in that list. I'll tell you, it's Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. I mean, I feel like that's a trap game for them. I believe that they play Georgia the next week. I want to say without the schedule for Ole Miss. I feel like I looked at it this morning. It is some sort of trap game because they play somebody either the week before Arkansas or the week after Arkansas. And this is a serious trap game for them. They have overlooked Arkansas twice before. Actually, every season that Lane Kiffin's been there, that game has been a one possession outcome. So Arkansas, I mean, they came out one, what was it, 42 to or 49-30 a couple of seasons ago at Fayetteville on senior night, and when Rocket Sanders ran for 200 yards and KJ was dealing that night. I feel like that could be a game. And that will tell you if Arkansas loses, say, against Tennessee and LSU, and they finally come home and they knock off Ole Miss, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a different vibe.
Mm.
And I think that will transcend to the rest of the season. So
That would
I
lead you to
think
Texas.
Arkansas, yeah, because Ole Miss has such a great team. They have built it with great transfers. They're an impressive class, and they're going to be led by a guy that's a multi-year starter in Jackson Dart. I feel like Ole Miss is a dangerous team, but when it comes to coming to Fayetteville, they have always had a tough time being able to get the job done, even with their best teams, whether it be under Kiffin or whether it be under Hugh Freeze. They've always struggled in Fayetteville.
Well, Arkansas is a Oklahoma Georgia sandwich
Yes.
on that week. Uh,
Okay.
so that gives you a little bit of an idea, you know, coming out of what should be a relatively tough game, going into a pretty big game the following week. That might have some sort of championship game implications to it.
Hmm.
But the other thing, Lane Kiffin has always complained about how cold it is in Fayetteville. He doesn't like the cold there. And so I'm looking at the date. If this game was 2 weeks earlier, 100% Ole Miss, they walk off the field. It's probably not close. It's that first weekend in November
Hmm.
where you start getting that deer season weather.
Oh yeah.
And so that's not a good setup for Lane Kiffin. If it's going to be a cold weekend and you're sandwiched between Oklahoma and Georgia, that's not a good setup for Kiffin. That's the best opportunity out of those that we listed, compared to everything else that's there. Everything else that's there feels, I don't know, like it's we'd have to have something unexpected.
Yeah.
So you kind of look to that. You hope Pittman still has the team at that point. He
Yes.
still got their attention and he's holding them together. Maybe that's the one that turns the tide kind of deal. The anonymous coach is like, well, they're all going to be gone by Halloween. You're not going to be going to Sam Pittman's house to get your Snickers bar kind of thing. He's going to be gone. He's going to be in Hot Springs. But no, I think he definitely makes it through that weekend, and I think that's a possible turnaround weekend because if he wins there and suddenly gets them to like lose their mind for the Texas game,
Hmm.
and they pull an upset there, then it's kind of all bets are off at that point.
Right. And you
And
think
then
about,
I
sorry.
don't think they're going to be unprepared by the time they got Louisiana Tech after that, and then you got
Hmm.
Eli Drinkwitz to end the season. So you go on a little three-game winning streak with a lot of momentum, and then you play Eli Drinkwitz, who I'm just going to say at this point, if I'm Sam Pittman, there is zero love lost. I finally care about Missouri for once, and I'm looking for a way to curb stomp him and just leave a mud hole just wherever he happened to be up in Columbia, Missouri, and then just bringing it back.
Yeah. And I think that is the big key is Missouri. And people have said for plenty of years that Missouri's not a rivalry. Folks, it's not a rivalry until you beat them and you beat them on multiple occasions. But this has a feeling. I mean, in basketball, it feels like a rivalry. Like
Yeah.
it feels like there is absolute hatred there. Right now, I hate Missouri. I can't stand them. I like the swag. I don't even know if you can call it swag from Eli Drinkwitz, but I mean, I feel like he runs his mouth enough. Somebody needs to punch him in the mouth on the way out, and I feel like the frustration of the past year and a half for Sam Pittman, it might be enough for Sam to say, "Listen, screw it. Let's go out there and punch Missouri in the mouth." And like you said, stomp a mud hole in him, open up a can of old cold beer, and go on. I think that's what Coach Pittman's going to want to do, and try to put the 2 years of misery out and go and lead 2024 on top and maybe finish 6-6, 7-5. That would be a dream scenario.
All right, so we're out of time at this moment. We're gonna have to stop down. Obviously, we're gonna have several of these throughout the summer, but I want to take a minute to say thank you to Jacob for coming on, and for you joining us here today, taking time out of your lives to hear us kind of ramble on. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. For all of us here at All Hogs, I'm Kent Smith. Thank you. Have a blessed day.